What's up, everybody? My name is Matt Modi. I'm a content producer and betting analyst for OddsJam. And for this video, I'm giving you my guide to how to bet NBA player props. My profit with OddsJam just went over 10K, which is exciting. As you can see, roughly 60% of that is specifically betting on basketball, about 5,800 of the 10K in profit. And I would probably say off the top of my head, 75 to 80% of this basketball profit is from player props. So let's call it $5,000 total from betting player props, just from one NBA season. And I would say regarding average bet amount, when I'm betting player props, I never bet more than $100 on a specific player prop. Player props get you limited a little bit quicker on sportsbooks, so I never bet above $100 on one player prop. So I would say that my ROI is probably honestly higher on player props than it is other bets. I've had a lot of success betting NBA player props, and I'm going to detail how I've been able to do that. So starting off, the most important thing I do is just look at the OddsJam positive EV page. That is where I start betting NBA player props. All right, so now that I'm on the positive EV page, the one thing I want to do is just stop and highlight the most important thing you can do to be a profitable sports bettor, specifically betting on player props, or really anyway, anywhere, anytime, is be signed up for every sports book that's available in your state. The way this works is if you look at the links in the description, you'll see a bunch of sports books and you'll see the sign-up bonus associated with those sports books. If there's a book that you're not already signed up with, sign up using that link and take advantage of those sign-up bonuses, because the way that you find more positive expected value bets and specifically NBA player props is just if you're signed up for every single book. Every book individually has their own proprietary method and software and analytics and how they price lines, and every book is different. So the more books that you're signed up with, the higher chance you have of finding a positive EV play and taking advantage of a pricing discrepancy. So when I'm looking at the positive EV page, the very first thing I look at is market width. Market width is essentially the OddsJam perfect lines way of designating confidence in a line. The smaller the number, that means the more confident OddsJam is in the line, which means tighter the market, which means better bet, essentially. The bigger the number, obviously the opposite. So the way you calculate it is for a plus and a minus like this one, you just subtract those two numbers together. So 146 minus 109 equals 37. So this Clint Capella rebounds would have 37 cents in market width. This next one, Kevin Durant, it's two minuses, so you add those together. Plus and a minus, you subtract two minuses, you add together. So this Kevin Durant one, you would add 30 plus 3, and you would get 33 cents in market width. So for player props, the general rule of thumb is to not bet anything above 40 cents. So this Clint Capella one is within range. This could possibly be a play, but we're not quite there yet. There's still more work to do. This Kevin Durant one is a play. Al Horford, this is a play. Looks like this one is not. This Kristaps Porzingis, looks like the play is on under 32.5 points, rebounds, assists. As we can see, this has over 40 cents in market width. What's that? 47. This one would not be, 43. This one would not be a play. So now that we've talked about market width, right? Anything under 40 is fair game. The next thing I want to look at is I want to compare what the OddsJam perfect line has compared to every other book. So we know that Caesars has the best odds for this Clint Capella over 12.5 rebounds, but we don't know what every other book prices it at. So what I actually do is I click into the market and I compare it to what every other sports book has. So this Clint Capella one would be within range, right? The reason is because the OddsJam perfect line prices this at plus 109, prices the other side at minus 146. So we know it's within range in market width because it's 37 cents because we subtract these two numbers together. We know it's positive EV because I got it from the positive expected value page. And as we can see, every other book prices this at plus 110 with the closest being PointsBet at plus 115. While Caesars is the true outlier here. So this would be a bet that I recommend. This is the number one in my guide to betting NBA player props, is find discrepancies among sports books. So this Clint Capella one, like I said, getting it at plus 150, this is a really valuable bet. I would recommend this one to anyone betting. And one thing I like to do, there's some people that like to do a little bit more research into their picks. So one thing you can do is just Google fantasy projections. There's a ton of different free websites out there that provide projections, and you can see our daily fantasy sites pricing Clint Capella to go over 12.5. If they are, then this is an even more valuable bet. Another thing you can do is just Google Clint Capella stats. You can look at his stats and see A, what his season average is, and B, is he trending over this number recently? So it looks like Clint Capella is averaging roughly 12 rebounds per game. But if you look at his last, 6 games, he's gone over this majority of the time. He's gone over this in 4 of his last 6 games. So that's an even better mark towards this bet. So we've talked about a couple important things here, right? We've talked about comparing the prices on what other books have. We've talked about looking at fantasy projections. We've also talked about looking at trends, both season long and recent trends. Another way I like to take advantage of sportsbooks and make money betting on NBA player props is to take advantage of injury news. So for this Hawks one, there's really no injury that would make me nervous about Clint Capella rebounds. He's their starting center. It's not like an injury to another player would make me nervous about him going over. But all you need to do to look at an injury report is just Google the two teams playing. In this case, it's Hawks versus Wizards, and then look at the injury report and then see if anybody is listed out. What I like doing in situations like that is if a player is listed out on the injury report, what I like to do is find who's going to take his starting spot and look at if there's any value on betting the over for that player. So this Suns game is a perfect example of this NBA player prop betting strategy. As we can see, the Suns are resting a bunch of players. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, Chris Paul. 2 guards, power forward, and a center. So this means that there are players on the Suns that are going to get an increased playing time because of this. Now, there are times where sports books will take this into account and their odds and player prop prices will be reflected with these injuries, but that's not always the case. So what I love to do in situations such as this is I'll look and see if there are any player props that are positive EV currently available. So you could either go to the positive EV page, you could control find Suns, looks like there's no player prop, then you can click into the game, click into a point total or made threes or rebounds, assists, anything you want to do. And you compare the stats and you see whether there's any pricing discrepancies where you can make money. So I love looking at injury reports and finding valuable NBA player props to bet based on those injury reports. So I've hit the main strategies that I look for, right? Pricing discrepancies, injury reports, trends, projections, all that good stuff. There's a couple more smaller strategies that I like to use if I really am unsure about a play or if I'm really going through a cold streak and I just really need to have faith in my plays. One of those being an example like this, the Luka Doncic point total over, 29.5 points. That's a lot of points. So what I like to do is look at where the total is for a game. And if it's high, that makes me more confident in an over. If it's low, that makes me more confident in an under. Again, this isn't an end-all be-all, but it's just nice to have a tool in your toolbox when thinking about betting a player prop, especially if you're going to bet a lot of money on one. So like Luka Doncic to go over 29.5 points, has to score 30 or more. I want to know, do the betting markets think that a lot of points are going to be scored in this game? If so, that makes me more confident in the bet. So I'll go, here I have Caesars. I'll go and I'll find the game, Mavericks versus Pistons. So the over-under for this game is at 218. That's not super low. It's also not really high. I would imagine it's one of the lower ones of the week. Like Nets, Knicks, we got at 230, 224, 235. So here's one that's lower. Here's another one that's lower. But overall, as you can see, majority of these games have a lower or have a higher point total. So again, that wouldn't make me stop this bet of Luka Doncic, but it's nice to have in your toolbox. So the strategy being whether you're betting a point total over or under, look at what the market has for the over under of that game. If it's a high total, that makes me more confident in a player prop point total going over. If it's a lower one, that makes me more confident in an under or nervous about an over, stuff like that. There's even more research you can do into player props. Like you can look at how Luka does against the Pistons. You can look at how Pistons guard players of Luka's position. So if you want to call him the point guard, you could see, well, do point guards normally go off against the Pistons? Like there are some teams where they have a good defense, like the Raptors, for example. They have a really good defense, but they struggle against getting centers, against guarding centers. So the second worst defense in the NBA, guarding centers. So if you're looking at a player prop for that game, maybe you'll see what the center point total is. And if it's positive EV, maybe that's a good bet. There are certain things like that I don't look at for every single player prop, but is important. And like I said, if I really need a win, then I will go ahead and do all this research just to make me really confident in my plays. But overall, the important thing I'll look at is just the pricing discrepancy. So that Al Horford rebound total, I would probably bet that one blindly because it's such a discrepancy between the books and what I got it at. That's such a good bet. If it's more 50-50, then I'll look at the projections, I'll look at the trends and all that stuff. And then if, like I said, if I really need a win, I'll look even deeper. Like, I had some weeks, there's 2 weeks in a row where I just couldn't get a win. So this next week, as you saw, my profit skyrocketed. I did a lot of research into my plays this week, especially my player prop plays. I did a lot of research into these 2 weeks too. It just wasn't fruitful. This week it was. So the main thing to keep in mind when you're betting NBA player props is just understand that variance happens. You could bet the best plays in the world, and sometimes they'll just miss. Sometimes you'll bet on Kyrie Irving to go over his point total, and he just won't be able to make a shot that day. That happens. The important thing is to not chase losses or to not rage bet or anything like that. Trust in the math, trust in the research, and trust in the process. And that's how you can make money betting on NBA player props. So now that we've loaded a bunch of player props, the next thing I want to do is just talk about using the OddsJam bet tracker to look at your props and which ones are good and which ones are not. It's pretty straightforward. Green equals good, red equals bad. Green means that you are currently beating the closing line based on what the OddsJam perfect line no vig odds are. Red means that you are not. So one way you can analyze whether your strategy is working, how many of your props are beating your closing line versus not. As of right now, I'm having a pretty good day. It looks like only 2 props are not beating the closing line. So the strategy here, when you've determined a bet is red, there's 2 different options. Number 1, you could just cash it out immediately. You could go to the Sportsbook. So I would go to PointsBet or I would go to DraftKings and I would see if they let me cash this bet out. If they don't, unfortunately, you just have to let it ride. If they do, you can cash it out, delete the bet from your tracker, no harm, no foul, wash your hands clean of it. What I like to do, my personal strategy, is I like to wait a little bit closer to game time because one thing you see with player props is the line can shift pretty dramatically. It just depends on where the money comes in. So, people might be hammering Kyrie Irving under, so much so that there's actually value on his over. So people start hammering that and it kind of goes back and forth. So I like to wait until closer to game time. And if my bet is still red and the Sportsbook allows me to, then I'll cash it out. So I'll maybe check about an hour before game time. So this game's at 7:30. What I like to do about 6:30 Eastern, I'll go through and I'll cash out all the red ones that let me. If they don't let me, then you just have to ride it out and see what happens. But the one thing to keep in mind, just because it's green doesn't mean the bet's going to hit. Just because it's red doesn't mean it's going to lose. The goal is just to stack as many bets as possible that have green, especially for player props. So for me, this obviously isn't player prop specific, but beating the closing line at 74 or so, 73.5% is pretty good. The goal is to just be above 50%. So that bet tracker that I talked about, that's a feature that OddsJam offers for free. It's an amazing tool. You don't need to put down a card or anything like that. You just need to go to oddsjam.com and you can use the bet tracker. And all those bets you saw, I'll go back to it, that you see on the screen here, all these pending bets, OddsJam will actually auto-grade these bets as won or lost for you. So you don't need to either, at night when the games are over, go in and mark each one as manually won or lost. You also don't need to do that in the morning. OddsJam does it for you. So I'll wake up and I'll know exactly how my bets did. It's an amazing feature. So if you are signed up with OddsJam, good for you. You're on the right track. Hopefully these strategies have helped you enhance your betting experience. If you're not signed up with OddsJam, I really can't recommend it enough. Just start a 7-day free trial. Sign up for the email list. You'll get 3 free bets emailed to you every day. The 7-day free trial, start using these strategies. You'll start cashing. Then you'll want to sign up for the year. And if you have any questions on the trial, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can hit me up at my Twitter handle, Matt_Modi_bets. If you are currently a member and you're not making money using OddsJam, I would love to hear from you as well. We can talk about your strategy, what's working, what's not working, and what we can tweak. But that's pretty much all I got for you. So again, my name is Matt Modi. I'm a content producer and betting analyst for OddsJam. Also a huge NBA fan, so I absolutely love this stuff. If you liked what you heard, again, you can hit me up on my Twitter with any feedback. You can also comment on the video. I make sure to check out all the comments. Other than that, would appreciate a like on the video, and if you could subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. But that is all I got for you. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.